We have an hour of bliss. Yum, yum. So welcome to those in studio and to those at home. Let's get started. We're actually going to start in supported fish. So you're pretty close where you are, Mike, if you want to stay there. Yeah. Feel free just to stay there. And it's to open up through the shoulders. You'll get a rib opening and chest opening as well. But bolster, or if you're at home and you don't have a bolster, a couple of pillows, a blanket folded or rolled up. The rib cage is supported by the bolster. Your armpits are just at the top of the bolster, and then your arms can go wide. Whatever you want to do with your legs, soles of feet together, knees wide, or just leave them out long. If the extension in your neck is too intense, then grab something else, pillows, block, weight bags if you've got some. And right from the very beginning of practice, start to observe your breath. Watch it as it flows naturally in and out. Feel the quality of your breath as well. Our breath is the anchor to the present moment and the bridge to the body as well. So by observing the breath, it brings us into a state of presence. By observing anything, by witnessing and watching, it detaches us. So we're not entangled by the experience. Instead, we become an objective observer. 3 more breaths here, observing. And then slowly peel yourself up off your prop, and you're going to sit on it. So really slowly, just find a comfortable seat on the pillows, blankets, bolster, whatever you're using, into a supported squat, but legs long. We're going to take chicken wing. So you can bring both hands. We're just going to do one at a time. Maybe start with your right hand behind your back, and then loop the elbow just on the inside of that right leg, whatever's suitable. Relax the left side. Tuck your chin, close your eyes, and this is where we come into these kind of poses. And I know in my body, these poses are really intense. And some people, depending on your rotator cuffs, depending on how much vinyasa you do, it will depend on how tight your rotators are. But it's these kind of poses that are really good for observing reaction, observing stories that the mind creates, or a dialogue or conclusion. And by observing, witnessing, we disentangle ourselves from the scenario that the mind's causing or creating. The state of observing, the practice of observing, is a very present practice. Instead of wandering off with the stories in the mind, you sit back and watch. So you stay present as you observe. Because the mind's stories, the mind's responses, quite often are automatic and lightning speed. Happens really fast. But the more we practice observation, the slower the mind becomes, the slower those stories become, and the less entangled we become. very gently, very slowly, start to move that arm out of the rotation and just let it come back to neutral and sitting neutral for 3 breaths. And then swap it over to the other side. Same thing, a chicken wing. Left hand just comes sort of the back side of the body so the elbow can hook around in front of the knee. If you need to lean in a little bit, especially if you're quite tight through your rotators, then just do whatever you need to do. For some people you won't feel a lot straight away, but over time, the longer we hold it, the more intense it becomes. And especially you feel it, I know I do, when I come out of it. So relax into it, and observation, the practice of observation, gifts us insight. And so we observe the body, we notice, okay, one side's tighter than the other, or, something's feeling a little bit out. And with that insight, then we can start to, place our focus. Same goes with the self-study. Observing ourselves, our reactions, our stories. We gain insights into ourselves. Some, are nice, some not so. But with those insights, then we can spotlight and we can pay attention to the things that we need to change or we want to change. Without the insights, without the practice of observation, we're oblivious. It's a very fundamental aspect of the yogic path, is that self-observation. Last breath. Again, make sure you move slowly. Come back to center, to neutral. Stay and observe and breathe. And we're going to take a banana bend stretch. So you can slowly come off your bolster or your prop and pop that off to the side. You don't need anything for this one. You're lying down on your back again. We're going to do our right side first. So you're going to shift your heels to the left side of your mat, and I like to cross my right leg on top of my left. Your hips are in the center of the mat. You shift your shoulders to the left side of the mat, and then reach your arms up and over. I like to grab my right wrist with my left hand, just to draw that shoulder and arm into a little bit more of a banana shape, a side bend shape. Now your whole right side's really open, stretching, left side slightly compressed. So as you breathe, maintain that practice of observation. See if you can expand that whole right side on the in-breath. Noticing where you feel it the most, but also digging deeper and observing the more subtle sensations. Personally, I've found the observation practice, especially the last couple of weeks, almost like a lifeline. With all the changes and all the uncertainty and all the decisions that I've needed to make and just everything that's been happening. By observing myself, normally I'm a bit of a worrywart naturally. I'm a typical Virgo. And so stress, anxiety is part of my makeup. But observing myself, noticing when that stress and anxiety is starting to rear its ugly head and worry, I've been able to detach myself from it. Just be able to sit back and watch and go, oh yeah, there it is. You can see it clearly, rather than getting entangled in the experience. I become the observer, objective observer, and able to completely, these last couple of weeks, stop that worry and anxiety and stress in its tracks.
That's the power of observation, especially self-observation. Quite often we just automatic pilot. Don't even realise the effects. Like anything, the more you practice, the better you become at it. Same goes with observation. The more you practice, the more it becomes sort of ingrained and natural and automatic to observe. We're going to slowly slide ourselves out of this. We're not going to come straight over to the other side. We're going to do 2 other things in a little sequence before we repeat the other side. So just come back to centre, very gently, very slowly. We're going to do a sort of another version of our chicken wing lying down. It's a bit different, a lot different. You're just going to slide your right hand underneath your back. So you might need to kind of roll over. Wherever's comfortable for the shoulder, and keep your wrist as straight as possible. You can kind of turn your wrist on a funny angle and then lay back down on that arm, and that arm just stays as is now. It's in a rotation. Now we take it into a neck stretch. So you bring your left ear to your left shoulder. I like to use my left hand to do that. Kind of grab above the right ear and then draw that left ear down to the shoulder. Keep your head relaxed once you get it there, resting on your mat. And then one more thing that we can do is either soles of feet together, knees wide, just for a bit of a hip opener, or you can actually go the other way, so the internal hip rotation, and just the right side. So left side's kind of your anchor, the right side knee draws in. But keep the emphasis on your shoulder and neck stretch. So if the legs pull you out of that, then don't worry about the legs. If anything that 2020 has taught us is that anything can happen. Beyond our imagination, beyond our preconceived ideas or beyond our plans, anything can happen. And I'm grateful for that experience, because when COVID first hit, I automatic pilot went into that panic mode and worry and stress and anxiety. It was an automatic response. But throughout this experience, my yoga's come into play big time as I've observed myself. And so now when, shit happens, I'm observing a much less reaction, automatic response. Because the experience has taught me that anything can happen. So instead of letting my body, go down the rabbit hole of all the hormones and toxins that get released with stress. Observe. Watch, witness, detach. And it doesn't mean that you become uninvolved. It actually means that you tap into a higher intelligence, a more wisdom body experience. Come out of this the opposite way we came in. So whatever you did with your legs, release out the legs first, then the neck stretch. And I like to use my left hand to kind of push my head back, so you keep the neck muscles relaxed as possible, back to center. Once the head's in center, then you can roll over and move the arm out from underneath, and just like that. We're going to do an auxiliary release, which is just, auxiliary just means underarm area, with our block. So you're going to grab your block. If you don't have a block at home, you can roll up a towel, like a shower towel or a beach towel, or even a smallish blanket, and use that as your block. And so we're going to roll over onto our right side. We're going to continue the theme with the right side. Block on the medium level, underneath your armpit, where you're going to kind of, elbow is on the mat above the block, and your hand is supporting your head because you want your neck to be relaxed. And then put your weight down into the block. And then from there, once you kind of get a little bit climatized to that, and you can start rolling your weight back to the back side of your armpit, or come into your shoulder blade, the sort of edge of your winging shoulder blade, where all your rotators are. Take it gently and easy at first. Relax into it, soften into it. Observe and allow. There's no right or wrong in this kind of practice. You can explore more. You can move the hand away from the head and kind of explore the rotation of the arm forward and back, or extension, flexion. I personally just like to melt into it, but if you feel like you need a little bit more exploration, feel free.
ultimate path of yoga is meditation. It's very much a science of the mind, and observing is the key, especially if you're one of those people that struggle meditating, just in a formal seated meditation, because your mind just goes bananas. Observe. Watch. Witness. Just like we can observe the breath, we can observe our mind without being attached or entangled or carried away in the drama. Soften into 5 more breaths, and as you breathe, observe. Slowly making your way off block, blanket, towel, whatever you're utilising, back onto your back. You can pop the block aside for now, because we're going to set up our banana bend on the other side. So right heel to the right edge of your mat, left ankle crosses over the top, hips are in the centre of your mat, and then you kind of shuffle your shoulders over to the right. My right hand this time is going to grab my left wrist. Relax your head. Relax your arms and shoulders down onto the mat. If you tight through your shoulders in this shape, then you can bend the elbow, that left elbow, or both actually. Just do whatever's right for your bones, for your tissues, and then relax in, observe.
Last breath. Slowly making your way back to the center of your mat with your legs, your shoulders. Just lay in center. And then we set up that other version of chicken wing. So chicken wing first, left hand underneath your back. So it can be sort of mid-back area. Just be careful of your wrist. Make sure your wrist stays kind of straight. And then you put your weight back down. Once you've got that, then you can bring the neck stretch in. Right ear, right shoulder. You can use your right hand on sort of the left above ear, above left ear. Then once you've got the neck stretch, then whatever you did with the legs, repeat that, but for the other side, if you did right side, left side. Again, remember that the priority is in the shoulder and neck. So if the legs get in the way of that, just leave them out. Quite a few years ago, probably 5-6 years ago, maybe more actually, I started to really observe specifically my judgments. We have this part of our mind, it's called our buddhi, and it is classified our intelligence, but its job is to judge or to discern. And it can become out of balance really easily for a lot of us. It can be quite clouded and jaded as well. And I noticed in myself that I was judging a lot, mainly myself, but anything you do to yourself, you're doing externally as well. Maybe not vocally, but definitely internally. And so I made it a specific practice, a point, to observe every judgment that my mind would make up. And I realised that my mind was a judging machine. But with that insight and with that detachment of observation, I was able to release the shackles, to witness and to start making some changes. So the judgments weren't so automatic. Freedom was my experience. Releasing some weight. Experiencing some spaciousness was the gift of that practice. That I still do. Through that observation practice, watching when my mind is judging. You can do it for anything, you know. If you find yourself in your mind complaining a lot, watch it, observe. If your inner critic is really loud, observe. Not just in a formal practice like this, but all the time, observe. We come out of this the opposite way, so legs first. Slowly releasing out of the legs. Then the neck stretch. Again, you can use your right hand to kind of push the head, slide the head back to center. And when that's comfortable, pull the arm out from underneath and just lie flat. With your block or your rolled up towel, if you're using a towel, make sure the roll's really tight and quite thick. So then we roll over onto our left, set the block up on the medium level, elbow above, so your head can rest in your hand, and then your weight through the armpit, auxiliary area, onto the block. Once you've got that and settle in, you can roll back on into your rotators, massaging rotators. And do any exploration, anything that you did on the first side, meet it for the second side. 3 breaths. If you need more time here, feel free to take it, otherwise slowly peel yourself up, pop the block off to the side, come back onto your back. You're going to utilise your bolster. We're going to take a supported bridge, but we're actually not going to take it for the supported bridge purpose. We're going to take it for a myofascial release top of the shoulders, traps. So if you've got balls, if you don't have balls, if you're at home, then just extend your legs long and enjoy the bridge, supported bridge. If you have some balls from your supported bridge, we're just utilising the hip lift underneath, above the bolster. So 1 ball in each hand, pop them at the top of your traps, or at the top of your shoulders into the sort of tissues and muscles. You might take a couple of goes to get, right spot for you. And then, you can get your arms involved, bring them overhead, above head, out wide. That's just going to move the tissues around, knead them a little bit. You don't have to do anything, you can just literally let the balls do the work, the pressure. You can even bring your knees in towards your chest for a little bit more pressure, or if you prefer a waterfall, legs to the sky, for more pressure. And if you have got your legs lifted, you can kind of use them in a rocking, swaying sensation side to side, even up and down. You'll feel the balls, they won't move a lot, they'll just move maybe, a couple of centimetres at most. But it's going to massage out through the top of the shoulders there. Your rotators, all part of your shoulder joint complex, into your neck. It's all connected. So if your neck's a bit tight, it's going to affect your shoulders, vice versa. And quite often where we feel it is not where the problem is. It's above or below. So explore around that whole top shoulder area. Our bodies are so complex, our joint complexes are so complex that, if you have a tight muscle in your neck or a tight tendon or ligament in your neck, you can pull on a part of the shoulder joint complex, pull on a bone that can pull the whole shoulder joint complex out of alignment. That's why the Yin practice and the myofascial release coupled with the Yin is so beneficial. It's why we call it Yin Yoga Balance, because it brings the body back into balance. It brings the joint complexes back into alignment. Gaining insights from observation to where you feel those sweet spots or tender spots or misalignments, those those insights are knowledge, and the highest form of knowledge through experience. That wisdom, we can do what we need to do to bring the body back into balance. Pay attention. Without those insights, we're oblivious. Without the observations, we don't gain the insights. We're oblivious. So you've got 3 more breaths. Having said that, as always, if you need more time here, those of you at home especially, feel free to pause the stream and continue on this for as long as you need to, or wherever you're at. For everyone else, we're going to make our way into Shavasana, but you can actually utilize an occipital release with your block in your Shavasana if you like. So I like to just slide the bolster out from underneath my hips to underneath my knees, just to support the knees, make the back a bit more comfortable. And then setting up, again, the medium level of the block, supporting the head, where the neck and head meet that occipital ridge, the corner of the block massages into. You can put a towel over your eyes if you like. If you've got eye pillows handy or weight bags handy, you can bring them in as well. Maybe you're just doing a standard Shavasana. Whatever you're doing, observe.
Deepen your breath. As you observe that, there's a beautiful saying that goes, to acquire knowledge, one must study. But to acquire wisdom, one must observe. So I encourage you to take that with you into your day today and every day. Remind yourself to observe. Gain wisdom, gain insights. With those insights, transformation is possible. So is inner freedom and spaciousness. When you're ready, you might like to roll over onto one side. It doesn't matter which side you go to, just whatever side naturally feels comfortable. Maybe stay there for a breath or two, and then eventually, there's no rush, eventually help yourself up to a comfortable seated position. If you needed to open your eyes to maneuver around any of your props, then just kind of half open them and close them back down again once you do eventually make your way up into a comfortable seat. Once you are seated, then you can bring your palms together at heart center, Anjali Mudra. And from here we close our practice with the powerful but gentle vibration of Om. Take a breath. Thumbs to third eye center, we bow our heads. My heart honors your heart. That seat of the observer is the witness of the heart. From that place we experience unity because we are one. Together we say Namaste. Namaste. Thank you so much for joining in studio and at home. Have a blissful day today. Pleasure.